Hi there, this is Michelle with Indie Author Blueprint. Today, I want to talk about Amazon ads. I'll tell you in a second why this isn't the focus of my show, but why I want to talk about it today. If you were hoping you'd have immediate interest and lots of sales for your book as soon as it was published, you may be surprised to learn that people weren't lining up to purchase it. After your mailing list and a few friends and family purchase the book, then what? How do you get the word out? Well, in this show, my intent is not to teach specifically about book marketing. I'm here for the publishing process for indie authors, but we all have to market our books, so the topic will come up sometimes. And when I give advice, my disclaimer is that this is not an area where I stay up on all the latest trends for the purpose of passing it along to followers. I'm just like you. I'm an indie author trying to figure out how to reach my readers. And so I bring you along on the inside scoop when I'm experimenting or tell you about the things I'm doing, but it's impossible for somebody to stay up on all the things and be an expert in all the departments. My expert area is editing and the publishing process. And when it comes to marketing, I'm experimenting just like you. So let's get into talking a little bit about Amazon ads. When you publish your book, you'll put it into specific categories and you're going to use keywords to get the buyers out there to find your book in their search. But there are many other books in those categories, and those other books come up in searches as well. And when a buyer searches, Amazon uses its algorithm to show the books it thinks the reader wants. That algorithm also looks at what books are popular. And you'll notice that when you search for books, you can filter by different things. Like it automatically by default shows featured, but you can sort by price or you can even sort by release date. But there are two main ways that your book can show up on a search on Amazon. It probably isn't on that first page because the algorithm doesn't know anything about your book, and maybe you don't have enough sales, maybe not enough reviews and input from people that really show there's a demand for your book. Now, I'm speaking of Amazon, just a disclaimer here, because if you remember from a previous episode, I have reasons for why I personally think a self-published author should start with KDP. I know there's all sorts of good arguments for why your book should be what we call widely distributed, but for a first-time author, most of the people I work with are completely overwhelmed by the process, and so we start with KDP. And so I'm talking specifically about selling books on Amazon. Whether or not you fundamentally like the company, this is where our books show up. So there's different ways where they show up. One, it might be on that featured page when someone searches. Might be near the top, might be a couple of pages in when somebody's searching. But if they put in books about blah, 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 or fiction about, they're going to get some search results served to them. And you'll notice when you search, sometimes there are things at the top because those are sponsored. The advertisers pay to get those to show up at the top. Sometimes they just show up organically. For example, if you search my name as an author, my books are going to come up first because I'm the author of those books. That doesn't have anything really to do with the algorithm. We're talking about when somebody's searching topically. The other way that your book can show up is a product thumbnail on a page for another book. So if somebody bought something, maybe a popular author, they're coming back, they're purchasing that, but they've read that, and maybe that author doesn't have a new book out there and they're looking for something similar. The sponsored products say products related to this item. And they are little thumbnail images of book covers. And you'll see that all of those are paid sponsorships. They show up there because Amazon is suggesting them to that person as you might want this one too. Now you'll also see there's like another line that shows all what people also bought. And sometimes your books will just show up there because they bought yours and that person's. But we're talking specifically about the sponsored products. Now, my ultimate goal is for someone who liked a book similar to mine and is searching would also find mine. Therefore, I use Amazon product ads to do this. Over time, Amazon has simplified this. They link to everything you need from your KDP dashboard. You can just click on the marketing tab and then on Amazon ads and it takes you there. Otherwise, it's advertising.amazon.com. There are different ways of getting there, but you can get to that Amazon advertising tab. Now I'll come back in a minute and I'll give you a couple of resources to learn, figure out how you can learn more about advertising, some resources that I use. I'll give you the gist of what I do. But for right now, I want to just focus on the basics of how I use advertising. I have a set amount that I'm willing to spend in a month, and I have a per day limit. And then I target books similar to mine so that my book will show up on the related products. And that's where I think I'm getting most of my clicks. The algorithm or the advertising dashboard allows me to show where I'm getting my clicks, and so I can dive deep into like what search topics they were using and that kind of thing as well. So if you really like to geek out on statistics, it's all there. I don't always go into all of that, but I could if I wanted to. So I have that set amount that I'm willing to spend every month, and I have a per day limit of how much I want to spend, give or take. Amazon will maybe overspend. If I have a $5 per day limit, it might spend $6 one day and $4 another, but it's going to average out to that per day limit and kind of spread it out over the month. But I sometimes run out of money because I've capped it. And so it might get a little email in my inbox that says your advertising is out of money. It's okay. I have to decide whether I want to spend more. Just let it chill for the rest of the month. That's a topic for another time. I'll try not to get too far in the weeds because that can be overwhelming. So I target books similar to mine so that my book will show up on the related products. Now, there are different ways of doing this. You have the option of doing manual targeting where you're actually picking those books, or you can do automatic. I recommend when you're brand new, if you're going to do ads, you do the automatic. The manual targeting means you have to be setting specific budget amounts for each item you pick. And sometimes people accidentally don't get that set quite right and it overspends. So if you're concerned about the possibility of accidentally spending too much, just do the automatic, because what happens is Amazon's going to target who it thinks the readers are who want to see your book. And I will tell you that I've experimented with this. I've taken courses. I dived into the advertising a little deeper and specifically targeted and set specific budgets and keywords and all of that kind of stuff. But the ones that perform the best are the automatic ads that I set up. And when I let Amazon choose who the best reader would be, those are the ones that get the most clicks and the most sales of books. And so, frankly, if you're not interested in really getting into a lot of extra stuff, I recommend you figure out how to place an automatic ad for each book you have, or if you have a series on the first book to get them interested and hooked in the series, and then let it go from there and see. And maybe you can continue to add layers on. I recommend that you start simple and you don't just go all in and figure out how to set up 100 ads or something when you could start simple with some automation. So I have taken courses, like I said, to learn how to set up multiple ads, but those automatic ones are the ones that bring the most clicks. So I speak of clicks because you pay per click. That's how it works. You set a bid for how much you're willing to pay per click, and whether they buy a book or not, you pay for that click. So you always hope that once they get there, they want your book, that they're not just clicking around and they find it. There's going to be a ton like that, but you're hoping that enough of them convert to an actual sale. And so when I took a course, I learned that I didn't have to use Amazon's suggested bid amount because they actually want you to spend some money. So some of the suggested bids they have for my book categories are like 75 cents, whereas this course said go for 32 cents per click. So I followed that advice, and I'll give you a link yet in the show. I'll explain where I learned some things about advertising, and I learned a lot for free before I even paid for a course. And so, um, the more popular a book is, the more you have to pay to get your book to show up on the sponsored ads for that book. And that's why there are suggested bids. Again, though, through automatic bidding, I set a cap and I tell Amazon, this is all I'm going to spend. And I let Amazon bid for me. And that works the best for me. That's kind of how bidding works in a lot of other places too. You've maybe done it on eBay where you allow it to bid for you. I just say, I'm only willing to spend 32 cents per click. And, Amazon might only spend 20 cents per click. It will do that for me. When I'm using advertising, I always look at the cost versus my total book royalties. So let's get into, before I give you the tips on where you can find more on this, let's get into how we figure out if an ad is working. The key to figuring out if your ads are working is to always look at your total book royalties and not the sales that are shown in the advertising dashboard. This is because it might seem very expensive when I look at it on the ads dashboard, because it will show me the retail price of how many books I sold, and it won't really show me what I earned on those sales. And so it might be kind of scary if I go in and I see I spent $200 in ads in the month, and I have $250 in retail sales. And I know that math doesn't math, because I know I only get a piece of that. And so my royalties are not coming out to $200. This is the key, though. You have to look at your total royalties. You have to go back to your KDP reports, and you need to see how much did I sell there. And I learned this from Brian Cohen, who's one of the people I'll mention in a minute. I learned that I need to go there and look at the sales, because the return on investment is shown in how many sales I get over time, not just the ones that happen in the moment when I pay for the click. I might pay for a click in a month, but the buyer might have added it to their wish list, and they might not come back to make the purchase until later. I happen to write some books where people buy multiple copies. They're Bible studies, and when somebody buys 10 books for their group, that's a big sale, but they might have just saved it to their list as they're researching, and I don't know when they're going to come back and make the purchase. So I need to look at the big picture with the overall royalties and not just the retail sales that were only recorded in the ads. And I will, for the paid subscribers, I'll give you a little deeper look into, what those numbers actually are in my own ads dashboard, so you can see what I'm talking about with comparing those numbers. Way back when I took my first free class on Amazon ads with Brian Cohen, I'll give you that link soon, I set up that first basic automatic ad. That was in April of 2020. I had published my book in 2012. I re-released it in 2018, my first book. We're talking my first book. 2018, I re-released it because my distributor and the publisher I had used as a self-published author were dropping me, basically. One closed, the other one dropped me. And so I had no way of getting my books out there. So I went to Create Space, which is what KDP was before. And I had the rights to my book, so I re-released it with a new ISBN, put that on the cover, and re-released my book. And then I had about 2 years where sales were just, just kind of there. They were there because I was doing a lot of speaking, and people would maybe pick up my book and then go back later and order. I did some free promotions also to get the ebook out there, which I think helped as well. But then I can look back at 2020 when I took this course, this free ads challenge, where all of a sudden I had a spike in my sales. And then from there forward, I saw continuous monthly sales. There have been, I don't know if I've ever had a month where I spent more on ads than I earned. There's somewhere I break closer to even, and somewhere it's a really good return on investment, but it was really advertising that made the difference for me. So like I said, for paid subscribers, I'm going to reveal some real numbers below the paywall line. It's just at the bottom of the email that you get with the episode. If you're listening to this on your podcast app, you will find, just look for Indie Author Blueprint on Substack, and that's where I have extensive show notes. I have more there than I have in what you can see on your podcast player. But I'm not a big corporation, and I know that talking about money is a sensitive subject, but I want to be real because I'm a real person. I'm a real author. I earn money the same way you do on your book sales. I don't have a big flashy company. I'm a solopreneur. I coach other authors because I work alongside them, helping them publish their books, help me pay the bills so that I can publish my own books. That's just how it works. But I don't believe in gimmicky things or faking the system or any of that stuff. I don't encourage anything like purchasing packages that put you on a New York Times billboard or any of that stuff. I just publish, advertise, and keep going. I build a community engaging with readers on Substack, or on my website. But that's it. I'm not somebody who is raking in 6 figures with my books. That's just not where I'm at. But I also have consistent sales. And that book that I mentioned from 2012 that I re-released in 2018, that book has sales every single month. It has not had any months where, since I started advertising, where that book or its companion Bible study that goes with it, I have not had any months where there were not sales there. And I have some other books that consistently have sales every single month. And I have some that are just really random, especially some of the anthologies that I've published, compilations with other authors, that, yeah, they're really patchy in how I have sales on those. But some of my books have sales every single month, and that's because of advertising. So I want to give you some tips here for how you can get help if you want to try ads if you have not done advertising. Remember, now we're focusing on KDP. There's a lot of other ways that you can do advertising. And so if you do Facebook or social media or Pinterest or BookBub or any of those other things, they're all out there. I'm just talking specifically about Amazon ads. The first one that I recommend is Bryan Cohen, and Bryan is spelled with a Y, Bryan, and Cohen is Cohen. You can look at bryancohen.com, and he has links to the things he does. He started the Sell More Books Show podcast. He runs the 5-day Amazon ad profit challenge that I took. He does that on a Facebook group, and it's been changing a little bit in how he runs that over time, but a couple times a year, there's something that he puts out that's free for you to learn the basics of advertising. And then after I did that a few times, I took his author ad school, which is a paid, back then it was a one-time thing, and then you had access to all the videos he had, but it's changed over time, so I won't I won't make any promises about what that includes now because you'd have to check it out. But the Facebook group, you just join the group. That one's super helpful, and you're going to find a lot of help there if you're looking for getting started. So I'll link to that in the show notes. But it's basically the 5-day Amazon ad profit challenge that you're looking for. And that's a great place to get started. And I would encourage you, if it seems overwhelming, to just, like I said, do the automated ad because he talks you through how to do that. And then if you follow Bryan, he does a lot of videos and tutorials that happen throughout the year. And so he just has a lot of great information, and he's an expert. He's even gone to work and consult with Amazon itself. They bring in different people to say, hey, you're doing something over here. This is working. Come tell us what you're doing. So I know he's collaborated in that way. So speaking of that, Amazon does have its own Amazon Ads Academy. I will link to that in the show notes as well. That one's a great tool. If you want some free courses that introduce you to advertising, it's a really great place to start. It walks you through, shows you how the dashboard works, gives you some tips. I do like Bryan Cohen's tips for spending, which are different from what some other people give in their advice, but you can still get a good start there. And people are successful with multiple ways of attacking their strategy for advertising. So, I've just found something that works, so I haven't really strayed from that too far. The third resource that I'm going to give you is Dave Chesson. He's the founder of Kindlepreneur and the creator of Publisher Rocket. It's the software that I use when I'm figuring out keywords, categories. He has a lot of great stuff, really good updated things on his website. And he also has a free Amazon ads course. So you can get a perspective there. If you're not sure and you don't know whose advice to take, well, I encourage you to kind of look at all of it and see where they differ a little bit, and then pick something and follow that one strategy for a little bit. I'm kind of at a point now where I think I'm ready to experiment a little bit more. So I'll keep you posted because I'll probably go ahead and try out some different things myself, and then I'll report back and let you know how it goes. Before we close, I want to say that if you do have ads and they're not getting traction, or you try some strategy and you're not getting traction, there are some things to think about. I've seen people in groups that complain about this, but then when I look at their books, I can see the issues there. There are issues with their cover design, or, it just really looks either unprofessional, or, um, it's like the description doesn't draw me in, the interior formatting might have some issues, or I read a few pages and realize there's some major editing issues. And so the ad gets the customer to see your book, but you still sell it. You can't expect a lower quality book will sell simply because you advertise it. If your book is poorly edited, or you didn't do a great job with the design of it, people aren't going to pick it up, because yes, they might see the ad on favorite author's page, but does it speak to them? Does it really speak to them in a way that they say, I want to make a purchase on this? So you have to do the work of publishing a quality product first before taking the step of trying to advertise it. And if you have a book that's not been selling, before you start really working on advertising, just do a little self-analysis and see, does my cover stand up next to other books that are in the same category? Does it really speak to the reader that way? Is it edited well? All of those things, and then you're ready to take that step of trying to advertise it. Okay, as promised, if you're a Substack subscriber to Indie Author Blueprint, when you get the email for this, or if you go to the blog post, paid subscribers have a little bonus at the bottom of the page that tells them a little inside scoop about advertising. And I gave an example of one of my books, and I'll give you the lifetime numbers on it just so you can see, what does it look like when I'm trying to figure out, is this book making money or not? So that will be there for you if you're a paid subscriber. If you're looking for publishing help, go over to Indie Author Blueprint on Substack, and you can navigate through all the different topics, from cover design to the business of publishing to interior, and you can figure out those steps to get your book published. All right, I want to thank you for being here today, and I will see you next time with more content for indie authors.